that every drop of water will be spoken for privately by a corporation, whether it's bottled water, utilities, the service of your delivery of your water, recycling, desalination, nanotechnology is the latest. At every phase, water will be corporately owned, because we are a planet running out of fresh, clean water, which doesn't sound right because we all learned back in grade 6 that can't happen, but it is happening, and the demand's going like that, and the supply's going like that down. And if we don't understand this really soon, we're going to find that corporations understand it much better than we do. They're moving in to take control of water. Coke and Pepsi, by the way, are under a great deal of criticism and resistance around the world, and so they're trying very hard to build their name through things like the 2 conventions, through giving money to schools and that kind of thing, through building pipes in Africa so poor people can access water, because really their story is one of going into communities around the world with Nestle, which is the other big bottled water conglomerate, and just removing people's water rights. So they're fighting back. And
what share of the market, because they're mostly associated in people's minds with beverages, in terms of bottled water, how much do they control?
Bottled water is where they're both making money now, because there's a real move by parents and schools against sugar water, pop. And so they're saying, okay, well then the new beverage of choice is bottled water, and now of course they're selling water to kids through these kids bottles and the tradable bottles that you can get back and forth. Last year we put something like 50 billion gallons of water in plastic bottles around the world. Almost all of it, all but about 5%, did not get recycled around the world. So these companies have a lot to answer for.
And Senator Obama's major speech at the Invesco Stadium, not to be confused with the Pepsi Center, as you walked in, there were all these Coke stations, and they were handing out bottled water.
Yeah, it shows how out of touch, even in touch people like Barack Obama are with an issue that is changing. And if you go anywhere in North America or Europe now, it's beginning to spread to other parts of the world. There is an anti-bottled water movement, and it's a very powerful movement. We're getting restaurants and city councils. In my country, Canada, we've got a raft of municipalities and school boards passing, anti or bottled water free zones. And
why is bottled water so bad?
Because first of all, it's the corporate takeover of water, and it makes people think that what comes out of their tap doesn't matter. So you're not going to be prepared to keep your taxes going for infrastructure repair, and that's the most important thing, is clean, accessible, safe public water. Secondly, it's polluting. Massive amounts of plastic, massive amounts of energy used in the creation and transportation of bottled water, CO2 emissions, and it's also quite poisonous. I mean, the plastic itself leaks chemicals. And when people say to me, well, I got a great deal at Walmart on my water, and why do you think you got a great deal? It's been sitting there for 6 months. You should not be drinking it. When you have a different view of bottled water, you actually look at that and think, I wouldn't put that stuff in my mouth. I would not. And it's unregulated, and it's less safe than your good, clean, safe tap water, which is what needs to be the goal here.
Irena Salina, you were telling us before we went on camera about New Yorkers, the role of New Yorkers are playing in this crisis.
Yeah, I saw recently a quote that said basically that if New Yorkers were to quit a bottle of water for 1 week, they would save 24 million bottles of plastic in landfill. Just to give you a perspective, I mean, that's...
Tell us about For Love of Water.
Flow is a journey. I mean, it started from an article that I read in The Nation in 2001. It basically said, who owns water? It implied, is water going to be the next oil of the 21st century? And Maude and Tony Clark had written the article, and I shortly after that started exploring pollution, the have and the have-not, who owns water around the world, and as well as what I call transparent pollution, which is things in our water that we absolutely have no idea about it, just like an herbicide, for example, in the United States that is spread all over the Corn Belt, that is called atrazine, and that has been banned for approximately 10 years all over Europe, not just one little village in Europe, all over Europe. They have found that it changes, it's an endocrine disruptor. Some cancers are close to it. And even though it's been banned in Europe for 10 years, they still find traces of it in the water 10 years later.
Who makes it?
Syngenta. Syngenta is a Swiss company, and they are one of the leaders now in ethanol So it gives you an idea of, it's not just the United States where it's going, it's worldwide.
And the U.S. is one of the only countries that has not banned it, or is it also being used in the third world?
I think it's being spread in forests in Australia. I read a big movement against that. In South Africa, it was used. I think they phased out of it.
Maude Barlow, you're just back from Australia.
Yeah, and I want to tell Americans the story of another so-called first world country, that because we know about thirst and drought and dying and death in the global south, but this is a first world country running out of water. And I want to tell that story to Americans because, as Irena shows so brilliantly in her film, the notion here that there's unlimited amounts of water is absolutely false. And what they've done there is everything wrong. And what I see happening here is just a repeat. It's about maybe 10 years behind, with removal of water from watersheds, the continued pollution, not putting money into infrastructure, privatization of water into this private right, so that what they call unbundle water from the land, and you can actually sell the water away from the land, which is exactly the wrong thing to be doing. And now big pools of international investors are coming along and buying up water rights, happening here with T. Boone Pickens and others in Texas and California, where the notion of water as a property, as a private commodity, is allowing people to buy it, hoard it, sell it, even bequeath it. And it's a mistake. And I want to tell that story here because I see what happened there. I see they've hit the water wall. There are going to be refugees from Australia going to New Zealand and North America.
What does T. Boone Pickens have to do with this?
He didn't make enough money, I guess, out of energy, so he's now buying up water rights, and he is going to build a pipeline and is buying up the property that he will need for this pipeline to transport water that he's going to sell, and he's holding on to it until it's worth even more money than it's worth now. So when it blue gold, maybe blue platinum, I don't know what we call it.
And he's also advertising heavily now on television for his supposed wind power projects.
Yeah, but it's all connected because the wind project is very connected to his water pipeline that he wants to build, and he's trying to green himself. But you can't green yourself by privatizing water.
What is it, Irena, that's being banned from the water? Atrazine. Atrazine, where?
Atrazine, all over Europe. Not just one place in Europe, everywhere.
And what is it?
It's an herbicide. It's an herbicide that is spread on cornfield and I think on soy field too.
Well, I want to thank you both for being with us tonight. The film opens in New York and Los Angeles. It's called Flow, which stands for Love of Water. I want to thank you both for being with us. Maude Barlow, head of the Council of Canadians, and thank you very much, Irena Salina, for being there. A big shout out to our dear friend Frances Crowe in Western Mass, who's gone through an operation. We wish her the very, very best in the hospital. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Sharif Odokudu, Saren Monte, Angeli Kamachev, Hagerman, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Honey Massoud, Robbie Karen, Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, Peter Curry's our engineers. Tonight I'll be in Portland at Portland High School speaking, Portland, Maine. Tomorrow in Bangor at Hammond Church, in the afternoon and the evening at College of the Atlantic in Bar Harbor. We urge you to go to our website at democracynow.org. Oh, the charges still remain against Democracy Now! Producers Nicole Salazar, Sharif Odokudu, and myself. I continue to wear the arrest band until they drop the charges. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Thanks so much for joining us.